Good afternoon, everyone. This is Woody Collins, and this is another day of talking about the Congo. Today's subject is solar powered water pumps. So come on in, have a seat, relax, and we will get started here. But I just want to remind you to like, subscribe, and share these posts if you find them enjoyable and that you think that they would be something that other people would be interested in. So my question was today is how do you get water in the Congo? There is very few places that you can go up and turn on a faucet, whether in a kitchen or a bathroom or even outside your house, that you can get water. Even in the large city of Kinshasa, the capital city, I you may have seen where I posted from a friend that they were having issues with water and electricity. So it is not available. You don't have a lot of situations where you have the the convenience of water like we have here in the United States. So you have to pump your water some kind of way. Uh, if and that water may come from, that is if you're lucky, uh, but it would be pumped some kind of way. Whether you would be a central pumping station or a pumping station uh, that would be allowed, uh, what would I say, a central pumping station that would be in your village or someplace else. So, how do you go about getting water? You got manual pumps, and those manual pumps can be powered by foot. They have there's one French version of a pump that you pump it like a pedal on the floor, and you pump, and the water comes up out of the ground. Or there is hand pumps. I can remember as a child going out to places where we had to hand pump water. We pump water with a from a what we call a pitcher pump. You would have to prime it, and then you would pump up the water from a pitcher pump. They have large pumps now uh, that they have big handles on them, and you can pump up more water, and it's more to for a centralized well or something that you would be pumping up water. At one time, there was a design for what they call a play pump. A play pump was like a merry-go-round, and on that, and just like you would push the merry-go-round uh, around in a circle, that was driving a piston that was pumping up water from the ground. So they call it a play pump so that kids can play and then they could also get water. A great idea. I don't know why it did not, you know, be sustainable. I haven't seen any ideas on them lately, but I would think that they would be hard to do the mechanical maintenance on them. That's one of the problems with any type of manual pump. You have the situation where you have to go in and manually replace parts, those mechanical parts, whether they're rings or whether they're pistons or whether there's gaskets and things. You have to go inside of and replace them. So I think if you can imagine taking off a merry-go-round and having to remove that big thing and then get to the parts that you needed to replace would be very difficult. Because that's the problem with a lot of manual pumps is you got to have somebody who's there to repair them. They're cheaper, but you pay for it in the having to replace those parts more frequently than with the electrical pump. The electrical pumps use some type of electricity, and as in Congo, you don't have electricity in most places. Uh, that therefore you would use have to have a generator, a gas generator or a diesel generator in order to you would have to run it to produce electricity that then you could have an electrical pump that will pump the water up. Along those same lines, they have pumps now that you can use for a use solar power. Solar power is generally is 12 volts. The same thing on a car battery. That's what solar panels produce. They produce those 12 volts, and then you have the wattage that you would need, which is the strength of it to depends on how deep it is and how fast you want it to pump up. You would have to add more and more solar panels to it to come up with the wattage. But with solar pumping, you use the sun powers to generate the electricity, and and with all pumps uh, that's electrical, they are not generally repairable by individuals. You have to send those back to the people who put those together, and they're very uh, uh, a lot of parts into them. Uh, I've taken them apart trying to clean it out because of all the sand in them, and it was like taking a puzzle apart. We got it apart, and then we tried to wash out the sand and then put it back together. I'm not sure we ever got it put back together because once I got it back together, we had the problem of I didn't have electricity to test it out to see whether it worked or not. But if anything was, and they created and built with a high tolerance, meaning say everything fits neatly together, and if they're not just put back together right exactly, they just gonna explode or blow up or really ruin their pump. So, but solar is the way to go. You don't have to worry about trying to get gas. You don't have gas stations out in the rural areas, and it's very expensive. Also, diesel is more uh, prevalent, but and it's also because diesel is not something that combusts so fast. Meaning, say, if with gasoline, sparks can light gasoline on fire. Well, with diesel, it's more safer. You don't have to worry about actually exploding on you and stuff. So most of the time, you want to work with diesel as much as possible, but you have to be able to get that diesel in order to run a diesel generator or something like that. So solar eliminates all that from the equation, and it works out a lot better. So that's the basic ways that you can get water if you had a well. Otherwise, if you didn't have a well or something, you would have to walk down to a stream, walk down to a um, some place that water is coming up out of the ground naturally, and you would have to tote it back to your house, tote it back to the village, which could take you 30 to 40 minutes, and it's typically downhill to that water source, and you have to tote the water back up in buckets or in basins or in jugs on your head to get back to the village. So water wells are a lot more convenient, but you do have to have a way to pump them. So hopefully that will give you an understanding of it's just not that simple to do, that it takes a little while to get it done. And that's what you're faced with, especially in countries like the Congo that do not have electricity that you can run electrical pump 24 by 7. You have to use solar, wherein you're only limited to how much uh, uh, how many hours of the day, which is typically somewhere around about 10 hours a day that you can pump in the Congo since it's right on the equator. So thank you very much. We will talk with you later. Take care of yourself, and we will uh, be talking with you at a later time.